The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Rounding out September, entertainment includes Theory of a Dead Man on September 27th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Beloved actor Richard Thomas plays Mark Twain in a one-man show at the National Theater in Washington, D.C. this Saturday and Sunday. I caught up with him to discuss inheriting the role from the late Hal Holbrook, as well as his own career highlights from his Emmy-winning role as John Boy in The Waltons, followed by other TV gems in The Americans and Ozark, as well as his Tony-nominated role in Broadway's The Little Foxes and touring as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Hey, Richard Thomas. Hey, thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
I guess I should say actually welcome back, because you actually came in studio. You and Pamela Reed of Parks and Rec fame came in for The Humans when it was at the Kennedy Center in 2018. This is our second time talking with you, actually. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Hope that was fun experience. But this time we're talking National Theater because you're doing Mark Twain tonight, the iconic play. You're doing Mark Twain tonight at National Theater in DC, and it's only 2 days. It's this Saturday night, and then I think a matinee on Sunday. So only two chances to get you. So tell them they got to get their tickets now, right? Running out of time.
Got to do it. You got to do it. Don't waste your time. You'll have fun. I'll give you a good show.
You definitely will. And when you say you will give a good show, that's literal, because it's a one-man stage show. You all alone up there as Mark Twain for 90 minutes, no intermission. Let's start there. I mean, that alone must be an acting challenge. That's endurance.
It is. I've only done one other one-person show before, which was a compiled of Tennessee Williams letters, but that was read. This isn't read. This is all, memorized. Basically what it is, Mark Twain, everybody knows Mark Twain as a great writer, of nonfiction and of course his wonderful novels and all the things that he wrote.
Huckleberry Finn and all that stuff.
Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, and then, Life on the Mississippi, Roughing It, Innocents Abroad, all those great things, Prince and the Pauper. But not as many people know that he was a great performer. He was actually one of the very first sort of nationally, and certainly the first most famous version of a stand-up artist that we've had in this country. He toured the country and eventually the whole world with what he called lectures, but he would get up and speak for an hour, a couple of hours, 90 minutes to an audience, and he'd, reminisce and tell tales and stories and all that. And he went all over the place. And basically what Hal Holbrook did back in the day, which he did, and what he did for many, many decades, was that he recreated one of Twain's lecture performances, and that's what I'm doing now. It's a great fun thing to do, and it's a great time to have Twain out there speaking his mind.
He's still speaking his mind through
he is. He is.
Well, you mentioned Hal Holbrook, obviously the famed playwright / actor, performed the play as far back as 1954, but then he would win a Tony for it, playing the role himself at the Tonys in 1966, Best Actor in a Play at the Tonys. And then so unfortunately, Holbrook died in 2021. So you're the first and only actor authorized to perform the play since his passing,
that's
right?
correct. That's correct. I mean, Hal didn't actually write it. What he did was he curated and compiled all of these texts that were Twain's. He put it together in the most wonderful way, and he would shift things out and change material from city to city and stuff. So it's a very flexible, open form, and it's great fun to do for that reason. But yes, when I was doing the To Kill a Mockingbird tour, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, maybe longer now. Yeah. Hal's estate reached out, and asked if I would be interested in keeping it going and reviving it. And Hal and I knew each other, and we had a very cordial relationship. So I immediately said yes, because it's such great material. And he did such a wonderful job of putting it together. that I think I mean, it's an honor to be bringing his work forward. And also, it's time for Twain, baby. It's Twain time.
It's time for Twain. I love it. I have a couple questions I want to unpack about what you said and about the show structurally in a second, like
Right.
how it's structured. But first, I want to take sort of the performance part of it,
Right.
trying to play Twain. I was actually talking to Chadwick Boseman about this before he passed, about trying to play Thurgood Marshall when there's not really much footage, as opposed to
Right.
Jackie Robinson or James Brown. There was actual footage of him.
That's
It's
right.
similar here. The only known footage of Mark Twain was taken by Thomas Edison, I think, at his home like a year before Twain died in 1909. So you don't really have much actual stuff to go off of other than what's on the page. So are you playing more? Are you basically playing Holbrook's interpretation of Twain? You know what I mean? Like, what's your approach?
Well, it's a great question. There is that very short piece of footage from the Edison Company of Twain and two of his daughters, shortly before he died, not long before he died, as you say, and it has no sound. There is absolutely no recording of Twain's voice. We don't know exactly what he sounded like, but there are many, many, many descriptions from people who saw him and knew him and watched him perform as well of how he spoke and how he moved around.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm sure that Hal used those cues to sort of to put his version together, and so have I.
Yeah.
He spoke with this, although he was a highly cosmopolitan man. He has this sort of kind of avuncular image as an American sort of a vernacular, Cracker Barrel talker, but he was a highly, highly cosmopolitan man who'd been all over the world, was widely read. But when he would perform and speak, the Mark Twain persona would take over and he would have this drawl, kind of easygoing drawl and regional sound and
Yeah.
he would shuffle around the stage and it was there's a lot of descriptions of how he was. I mean, Hal's performance is inimitable as every actor's is. We're all one-offs and
Yeah.
I certainly would honor Hal's performance and I saw it on PBS when I was a kid in
Oh,
1967.
nice.
But we're all different, and each of us brings something completely different to the role. So I'm sure there are ways in which I'm very different from Hal, and I just hope that I can carry it along, and in his spirit and in Twain's spirit, and give people a good show.
I love it. I love it. And then as promised, I wanted to go into like structurally how it's crafted. I saw William Goldman, who wrote All the President's Men, starring
Right.
Holbrook as Deep Throat. Now that I think about it, but the great, great screenwriter William Goldman wrote a book on Broadway. I think like back in like the
Yeah.
'80s, and there was
The
a whole sec.
season.
Yeah, there
What
was
was
a whole section on Holbrook creating the Twain Show, and I wanted to read a quote really quick. He said, quote, "My biggest desire was to make them laugh their asses off at the start. So they'd go out at intermission and say, hey, this guy's funny. And then the second act became the social comment act," end quote.
right.
Now, I know you guys aren't doing an intermission. You're going straight through. But structurally, is that sort of the idea? Remind them how funny this dude was in the first half, and then you can back into the social comment stuff?
Well, I know that Hal did that, and the PBS script, which is what I started with, it was my sort of starter piece, and then I would add things to it from other material he had, and take some things out that weren't as salient for our time right now. He did start funny and get more serious, but even when he hits his social commentary, which is very fierce, he's really an equal opportunity offender. There's something in just when you think Twain is preaching to your choir, he comes out with something that will take
Right.
your breath away.
Nice.
But even when he's speaking his social commentary and his comments on religion and all that,
Yeah.
it's all funny. I mean, there's always humor in there somewhere. I mean, that those pills are sweetened by his wonderful wit.
Yeah.
So yes, he does have a lot to say, and he has a lot to say that seems very germane at the moment. And you don't want to come out fighting at the
Yeah.
beginning of a show. You want to put people at their ease and have them feel like they can enjoy themselves and like this guy and get to know him.
Yeah.
And then, you can not exactly go dark, but you can dial it, you can dial it to the more serious end of the spectrum. But it's very touching. It's there's so much variety in what Twain wrote and in what Hal put together.
Yeah.
And so far, I mean, this is pretty much early days for the tour, but so far I've been having a wonderful time, and the people seem to enjoy it. They like seeing him.
I love it. Yeah. And it's so smart. What you're saying is, yeah, you disarm them with a little of the comedy in the beginning, remind them why the Kennedy Center named the Mark Twain Prize
Right.
for American Humor after this guy. There's a reason. Funny as hell. And then maybe we can, you go in what is the spoonful of sugar makes the social commentary medicine go down a little
Right.
easier in the rest of
Right.
it. Well, you've mentioned several times that you first saw Holbrook do it on PBS on TV as a kid. So let's dial back to then and your chat. Remind folks of sort of a little bit more of your journey. I'll go chronologically through some of the career highlights, then we'll wrap it back around to Twain, if you don't mind. So you're born in Manhattan in 1951.
Yes,
As a movie guy, I know that's the year Brando's filming Streetcar Named Desire. So you
you're
and method
right.
acting on the screen were born the same time. uh,
Well, it's funny you say that because when I did, I mean, the method, all the studio and the method and all that was so much in the air when I was growing up as a
yeah,
young actor in New York, in
yeah.
the theater and doing TV. And I did start young. As a matter of fact, I just want to tell you that this is the second time I'm playing at the National Theater. The first time I played at the National Theater was either 1958 or 59
Really?
when we came to the National with the Broadway production of Sunrise at Campobello, which was a
Whoa.
Broadway play in which James Earl Jones and I both made our Broadway debuts. And
Whoa.
I was about 8 years old at the time, and we came and played a sit down at the National for quite a while, and so I'm very
Wow.
excited to be back there.
Rest in peace. We just
Yeah,
lost him, and wow,
yeah.
what an
It-
icon! You're learning from the best at a young age
Yeah,
as a
well,
child actor.
when you're a child actor and you get a chance to work with gifted people, that's really your training ground. That's your apprenticeship. But yes, the method was everywhere. And in fact, when I did a play on Broadway, I don't know, I think I was 10 or 11, a Strange Interlude, an O'Neill play, which was the first production of the Actors Studio Theater
Yeah.
on Broadway. Jane Fonda, who was in it, used to take me over to watch classes that Lee Strasberg would give, and
Wow.
and
You mean
all
Hyman
those
Roth?
all
No,
those
Lee Strasberg. Yeah.
all those actors were studio actors. So I spent a lot of time in that world, breathing
Wow.
that air and learning from those people and watching them do what they did. And Lee would actually take rehearsals every now and then when the director was out. So
Wow.
it was really that was the zeitgeist when I was a young actor in New York.
Oh yeah, what method was it in the air? I like how you're saying, and oh my gosh, as a young actor, a child actor, really just figuring it out. You're learning from James Earl Jones and Jane Fonda, stage acting, and then your big screen debut in '69 is the race car movie Winning with
That's
Paul
right.
freaking Newman and Joanne Woodward. I mean, there was a
I
great docu
know.
series about their marriage and stuff a couple years ago. But yeah, I mean, what did you learn from those two? That's iconic.
I mean, what didn't you learn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and two very different kinds of actors, the two of them, and wonderful people. And when you're a child actor, you're usually playing somebody's child, and if you're lucky, the people who are playing your parents are seasoned. They may not be as stars of the same luster as
Yeah.
Paul and Joanne, but they're seasoned actors, and you just learn at their knee.
Yeah.
They were wonderful with me. I mean, it was the first picture that I did. I had done a lot of TV like since I was a child, which was
Yeah.
all live stuff and tape stuff. But that was my first feature, and it was I couldn't have been in better hands. But I've
Yeah.
worked with so many wonderful
Yeah.
people as a young man. I'm so grateful for that training, because that was on the job training, and you're learning from masters.
Literally a master of the craft. Like the year you're doing Winning in '69 with Paul Newman is the same year he does Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with Brad
Yeah,
Pitt.
that's
And he
right.
had just done Cool Hand Luke coming off of that a couple years, two
Right,
years earlier. So
exactly.
you're
What a
getting
great, what a
prime Paul
great
Newman.
career. What a great career that was.
Woo. One of the greats. My dog. Now I say Paul Newman. My dog sits up because of the dog treats, the Newman's Own. There's dog food, there's salad dressing, all for
Oh,
charity.
I know.
Oh, it's fitting. My dog loves Paul Newman. I should do a video where we put pictures of actors, Cary Grant, dog doesn't say anything. And then you say Paul Newman and she freaks out. That would be really fun.
That's actually a great idea.
Hilarious. And then Richard Thomas, you'll wag the most. Yeah.
I think he gave, if I'm not mistaken, I think he gave the largest percentage of his income to charity of any performer. He was incredible philanthropist. Very modest man, very private, very quiet, very modest, but he did a lot of good.
Yeah, that is a legacy. Well, you're really humble and modest yourself, just like Paul Newman. But right now, now is when you get to, I get to praise you, and you can pat yourself on the back just for 1 second, because you win an Emmy. You become, you're just like Paul Newman before. Now you're front and center as John Boy Walton in the CBS series drama The Waltons air 72 to 81. I think the first season wins a Peabody Award, and then the second wins the Emmy for Best TV Drama. We just had the Emmys this past Sunday. And so you were winning the Best TV Drama. How important was it at that time to show a rural family in mountains of West Virginia, Great Depression, all that stuff? Why do you think that hit so well with America?
Well, it was a number of reasons, and it's a great question. We were going through a lot as a country in that period. Vietnam was still cranking along. We had Watergate. There was a lot of division in the country. There was a lot of animosity. The country was very divided along cultural lines and political lines. And I mean, for the 60s as well, and being a youth of the 60s, that was just the world that I was in. But the Waltons it's twofold, really. It was a place of refuge, really. It was a place where you could go and visit with a family and hear stories that were pertinent and where the themes were social, and yet it was a safe place. And people from all across the country, all parts of the population enjoyed it. And so it was very different. Also, there hadn't been a show like that, in that period of time, there was cops and robbers and lawyers and great, doctors and all of that stuff, but an ordinary family actually struggling during the Depression, that was a completely new thing as a series.
I mean, you had the Jodes, Grapes of Wrath. They were movie versions, but a TV show that everyone sat down and watched. The Waltons world for that whole generation. Yeah, it
was a sort of unheroic bunch of heroes in that show, and that leads me to John Boy, which of course was such a wonderful part. I mean, every actor should have it.
Everyone on the street still probably says "Goodnight, John Boy."
Sure. Oh, sure.
I heard Garfield even quotes it in the Christmas special. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm sure of that. I mean, look, Doonesbury did it. I mean, everybody did.
It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous.
Their version of the Waltons. But John Boy, which is such a great part, and one I'm so proud of, and it did so much for me. He was a very different leading character for a male. In a television series. He wasn't, he didn't carry a gun. He didn't carry a stethoscope. He didn't have a law brief and go in and win cases he didn't catch the bad guys. He was a sensitive, artistic young man whose life in rural America, he had one foot at home and another foot out into the world of arts and creativity. And this kind of feeling male role at the center of a series was unique, was new, and I think it shifted the prototype a little bit of what the central character of a long form, of an hour-long dramatic series might be in our country.
Yeah, and we thank you for that. Seriously, like you helped change.
I just played it. Earl Hamner wrote it, and he deserves credit for the creation of that part. I mean, I had a lot to work with there, and it sat well on my shoulders. So it was a good thing.
Yeah, it sat on one shoulder, and then the other shoulder they propped the Best Actor Emmy right there, and you shouldered it all. Right. No, seriously, you win Best Actor Drama in 73. So that means you're forever in the history books between Peter Falk Columbo and Telly Savalas Kojak. And then you're right there in that if we're looking through the winners. It's amazing. All right. Obviously, the Waltons is like, everyone remembers you from that. But I want to remind some of the folks some of your other big TV roles. You were in the 1990 TV miniseries of Stephen King's It.
Yes,
you played poor little Georgie with the Storm Drain. You played his brother Bill. Does Pennywise the clown still haunt your dreams? Is it hard to go near Storm Drain?
No, the great thing about making a horror movie is that it doesn't scare you. It was fun to do. I mean, the great joy of that picture, of doing that picture, was the cast. We were, John Ritter and I were already good dear friends, because he'd been on the Waltons playing the Reverend, and
Yeah.
Annette O'Toole and I had worked together before, and Richard Masur and I had worked together before, and Dennis Christopher and I made a picture,
Yeah.
and Harry Anderson, who I hadn't worked with before, was such a great guy, and we got along immediately. So the sense of camaraderie and the bond that you see in the picture between the characters, which is really at the heart of that story,
Yeah.
it was all authentic. We had a wonderful time doing it. It was just a great experience. I haven't seen the new ones yet. I'm sure they're wonderful, but I still get so many people who think fondly of that show. I'm very proud of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I can attest the 2017 remake is definitely scary as hell. But that
Oh, yeah.
1991, a lot of people. It was like a two-parter, I think, a two-part
Yeah,
like
it was a
TV movie.
two-parter. That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Great stuff. All right, and then you've done a ton of roles, but I'll try to hit some maybe more recent ones that our listeners will remember, and then that'll inspire them to go out to National Theater. You played Special Agent Frank Gadd for 35 episodes of FX's spy drama The Americans.
I
Then
did.
you play Laura Linney's father for 9 episodes of Netflix's Ozark in 2022. I still can't believe she left her brother, your son, to get whacked at that
I
diner.
know.
What the hell?
I
If there's
know.
any way to combine those two shows into one question, just memories of both. Those are two of like the cool, thriller kind of shows of the last, I don't know, decade, and you're in both of them.
Well, I loved being offered Agent Gadd in The Americans. First of all, it was such a great idea for a show.
Yeah.
It was just the most wonderful new idea about a series, and Gadd it was sort of intentionally counterintuitive casting. It was not. I mean, there are a lot of other guys who would probably have been at the head of the line for that part, but the producers of that show wanted a different vibe on that character. They didn't want to go the usual route. So it
Yeah.
was lovely for me. I mean, I loved playing him. He was such an enigmatic guy. One
Yeah.
minute you thought, oh, he really is on the right side, and the next minute it was like, what a jerk. It was I loved how, there were people who say, oh, he was such a great character, and people say, oh, what an awful person. So it was wonderful to
The
walk the line.
complexity. That means you're doing something right if you're getting both reactions.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just the enigmatic
Yeah.
nature of that part, and then when they got in touch with me to play Laura's dad in Ozark, which was just such a great show.
I think that when like Breaking Bad goes off the air and we all wanted something kind of similar and great, and then Ozark comes and I'm like, oh yeah, another family deal. Yeah, it's great. So yeah.
Yeah, I really I love doing it, and one of the things that was so funny about that was just a few years prior to that, I had played Laura's husband in The Little Foxes on Broadway,
Tony
and
nominated for you, right? Lillian
yes,
Hellman.
Tony
Yeah.
nominated. Thank you for that. And we had a wonderful time. She's such a marvelous actress and such a great colleague, and I'm just so fond of her, and I admire her so much.
You know,
And
she was underrated in The Truman Show. What a great movie.
she's just
Her whole
terrific
career, really. But yeah.
in everything she does.
Yeah.
But I said, Laura, did I age that quickly that now I'm playing your father after having played your husband about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
But it worked out great. I mean, they put a few spots on my face. They wouldn't have to do that now, but they did it then. And they aged me up a little bit, and it worked great. And I love doing that show.
That's hilarious. Maybe Broadway years are different than screen years. I don't know how that works, but yeah, 4 years later, you go from married to parent. That's funny. Well, yeah. Well, that's a good segue. I want to remind maybe a couple more Broadway roles, which will wrap us back around to this show.
Cool.
Yeah. You mentioned you earned a Tony nomination as an actor in Lillian Hellman's Little Foxes. And then shortly after, you also mentioned To Kill a Mockingbird. You were playing Atticus Finch, of
Yep.
course, the great Gregory Peck on screen, but I think Jeff Daniels had done it on Broadway right before. And then
Did
you
it
take it
tour.
on
Yep.
on tour, and you came to the Kennedy Center in 2022. So you were in DC in that role. I have to say, you shared the stage at that Kennedy Center show with the original Scout, Mary Badham. Obviously, she
I
played
sure
a different
did.
role. And she called in, and we talked just like this, me and you,
Right.
for an hour. So everyone look up that episode with the original Scout in our archives. But I'll turn it to you now. What was it like? Like, are you pinching yourself? You're like, wait a minute, I'm playing Atticus, and there's Scout.
Yeah, well, it was great to have Mary with us. She was the cherry on top, and it was marvelous to have her play that awful Mrs. DuBose after she had played the wonderful Scout. I think
Yeah.
she had a lot of fun, and we
Yeah.
had loved having her
Yeah.
on the road. I mean, of course, Greg Peck's performance is inimitable and classic and wonderful
Yeah.
in the movie. And Jeff is an actor that I worked with years ago, and that we've known each other for a long time. He's a wonderful actor whom I admire. But everybody brings, as with Mark Twain, everybody brings their own flavor
Yeah.
to the part, and that's the beauty of repertoire and theater. The repertory is there for different actors to take on and to maybe reveal new things about the piece and to get people thinking about it in a different way. So it was
Not to
just
mention Aaron Sorkin doing his theater,
well,
Harper
Aaron,
Lee's
Aaron
words.
did,
Yeah.
he did the most astonishing job of bringing that story forward thematically, but absolutely not violating the
Yeah.
spirit of Harper Lee's novel in any way. I thought it was a real work of magic that he did with that adaptation.
Oh, definitely. And I still think that story, whether it's book, movie, play, has two of the most powerful lines that are just simple. They both start with hey. Hey Boo at the end. She
Right.
realizes, Boo Radley
Yeah.
is not the boogeyman,
Yeah.
sees him. But then the one I think that's the most underrated is Hey Mr. Cunningham. Because
Yeah,
on a
that's right.
page out of context, okay, it's just someone saying hi.
Right.
In the context of what that means, she's calling out this guy who's they're
Yeah.
storming the jail as KKK
That's
to kill
right.
Tom Robinson.
And the innocence of it is what makes it so wonderful.
Yeah,
The child recognizing somebody
yeah,
and calling him out in a really innocent way in the middle of that terrible moment. It's a great moment. It was great
yeah.
on screen, it's great on the page, and it was terrific in the play.
And he's ashamed. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it's Klan KKK robes in the original, like the book.
Yeah,
And then in the movie, this is 1962, the Gregory Peck movie. So I think they got rid, it's just more like, overalls and pitchforks kind of an idea. But then
yeah, yeah.
did you bring it back to Klan?
It had sort of a kind of a homemade version of the Klan feeling in it.
Right.
Yeah, the guys were hooded for the most part and all that, but it wasn't white robes and crosses.
Right. Well, but you were doing it in 2022. So nowadays, I
Yeah,
invite folks to look around and maybe say, hey, Mr. Cunningham to other Cunninghams out there.
right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I guess any others I guess just last year you did Professor Webb and Thornton Wilder's Our Town across Jim
I
Parsons
did.
and
I
Katie Holmes
did.
on Broadway. Yeah.
I didn't want to be the only American actor to die without having been in a production of Our Town, because everyone
Yeah.
has been in it, and I loved it. It's such a magnificent piece of writing,
Yeah.
and those parts are all so delicious. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize this, but Thornton Wilder was the first to pen the line "Bazinga." Just kidding. Jim Parsons. No. Well, as we've seen, folks, tons of iconic Broadway roles, tons of great screen roles in movies and TV. So you got to now catch Richard Thomas only 2 days, this Saturday, Sunday at
That's
National
right.
Theater, playing Mark Twain in Mark Twain Tonight, National Theater. Hey, thank you so much for doing this. This was a
Well,
blast.
thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure, and thanks for your interest in the piece. And I'm just so excited I just happy to be speaking Twain's words right now. It's a great time to have Twain out there going across the country. So come see it.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much. This is great.
Wonderful. Thank you. I enjoyed it so much.
Do I say goodbye? Do I?
You know what you want to say. You know
All
what
right,
you
all right.
want to
I
say.
want to say it. All right. Good night, John Boy. Thanks for
Good
humoring me.
night. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.